Hi everyone, my name is Coyle, and today I'll be talking about alternative rock and how indie pop connects to and shapes the genre. I chose this topic because alternative and indie music have always fascinated me. They're genres that constantly blur boundaries and redefine what mainstream even means. So today I'll walk you through what these two genres are, how they overlap, a bit of their history, and how artists like Radiohead, 21 Pilots, and Arctic Monkeys represent this crossover in different ways. Alternative rock, often called alt-rock, started as a reaction against commercial and polished pop and rock in the 1980s. It grew out of the underground music scene. If you're thinking of raw guitar tones, emotional lyrics, and do-it-yourself attitude, you're thinking of alt-rock. It wasn't just a sound, but an identity. Bands didn't want to fit into the pop music box. They wanted to create something honest, even if it sounded rough or experimental. Indie pop, on the other hand, emerged around the same time, but with a softer, more melodic approach. Instead of heavy guitars or anger, indie pop focused on creativity, individuality, and introspection. It still had the independent spirit, but musically, it leaned towards catchy melodies and personal storytelling. The intersection between alt-rock and indie pop is where things get really interesting. Both genres share the same independent mindset, with experimenting freely and valuing authenticity. They also both often mix styles from rock, electronic, and even world music. By the 2000s and 2010s, the lines between them began to blur completely. Many artists started blending emotional alt-rock energy with the accessibility of pop. This is when alt-pop was created. If we take a look at the evolution from the 1980s to the 2010s, alt-rock started with underground bands such as REM and The Cure. In the 1990s, Radiohead and Nirvana brought that sound to the mainstream, showing that experimental rock could still top charts. By the 2010s, indie pop and alternative were influencing each other non-stop. Artists like Arctic Monkeys, 21 Pilots, and the 1975 were leading this hybrid sound, fusing polished electrical production with emotional lyrics. When we look at the key sounds and aesthetic traits of alternative rock and indie pop, what really stands out is their focus on texture and emotion rather than perfection. Alternative rock often features layered guitars, lyrics that explore introspection or social tension, and unpredictable song structures. There's usually a balance between raw energy and atmospheric production. Indie pop, on the other hand, brings a lighter and more melodic quality, favoring clean guitar tones and intimate vocals that draw the listener in. The overall aesthetic tends to be minimalist yet expressive and emphasizes authenticity, creative freedom, and individuality. These traits define the alt-pop crossover while still remaining accessible to a wide audience. Let's start with Radiohead. They're from the UK and are often seen as one of the most innovative alt-rock bands ever. A song like Weird Fishes, Arpeggi, captures their experimental side, layering ambient textures, hypnotic rhythms, and guitars. They've always pushed musical boundaries while keeping a deep emotional core. This helped inspire a lot of later indie pop acts to take creative risks. Then there's 21 Pilots. They represent the modern crossover with their ability to blend alternative rock with pop, electronic music, and hip-hop. Their lyrics are raw and personal, and their honesty about mental health and identity is a huge reason they've been able to build such a loyal fan base. They show how alternative music's emotional depth can connect with pop's accessibility. Finally, Arctic Monkeys, another UK band known for Do I Wanna Know. They started with indie garage rock energy, but evolved into something smoother and moodier. Combining bluesy guitar riffs, sharp storytelling, and minimalist beats, their sound bridges indie authenticity with mainstream polish perfectly. The crossover between alternative rock and indie pop is where both genres truly meet. Alternative rock contributes its experimental, emotional edge, while indie pop adds melodic simplicity and accessibility. Together they create what we now call alt-pop, music that feels both authentic and relatable. Artists like 21 Pilots and Arctic Monkeys show this blend perfectly, combining raw rock energy with catchy and introspective songwriting. This fusion proves that creativity and mainstream appeal can coexist and continue to shape much of today's modern sound. Today, the influence of both alternative rock and indie pop is stronger than ever. In the 2020s, we're seeing what some call the alt-pop era. The experimental edge of indie and alternative has merged with pop culture itself. Artists now value authenticity, emotional honesty, and DIY aesthetics. You can really see indie's influence everywhere, whether it be within fashion, design, and youth culture with its introspective minimalist styles. It's also worth mentioning how global this movement has become. Modern alternatives and indie artists borrow from world rhythms and collaborate internationally. The genre is no longer limited by geography. It's a conversation between cultures. So to wrap it up, alternative rock and indie pop might have begun separately, but they've always shared the same DNA. Their shared creativity, honesty, and the courage to sound different is proof of this. Today, they've evolved into something that's both deeply personal and globally connected, and that's exactly what makes them so timeless.